Peter Coles here, and today's video is all about what learning a language actually looks like for serious language learners. Now, if you're somebody who thinks you can just spend a few months learning a language using a dumb app like Duolingo, this is not the video for you. Go away, never watch my videos. You don't have to write to me ever again. You don't have to follow me. Just go and use Duolingo and find out how well it works for you. Because trust me, it's not going to. Learning a language is a long-term project. If you think you can do classes for a few weeks and you can speak the language, you've got no chance. Even if you think you can do 6 months, that's going to get you nowhere. If you're truly committed to learning a language, it's going to take you years from not speaking the language at all to speaking the language at a high level, which is called B2. When I decide I'm going to learn a language, it's going to be a minimum of 3 years. It took me 3 years to learn Polish, and I've been studying Hungarian for over 3 years, almost 4 years, and I'm only halfway there. I've just started Arabic, for example. I have no idea how long this is going to take. Even if it takes me 10 years to speak an amazing level of Arabic, I'm willing to go through that process because I'm determined to reach my goal. If that doesn't sound like you, then learning language isn't the thing that you should be putting your time and effort in. Because if you're going to quit after 6 months, there's no point in starting. I always say quitting is worse than never starting. At least if you never start, you've not wasted any time. If you do 6 months of study and then quit, it's stupid. You've wasted your own time and you've wasted your own teacher's time. So what does learning a language actually look like? I'm going to focus on what language classes look like for students because that's exactly how I learn languages. It's not the cheapest option, obviously, but it is the most efficient option. It's not quick because it actually works. It will take you from not speaking a language at all to speaking a language to fluency. And obviously fluency doesn't mean speaking a language perfectly. Fluency means the ability to hold a conversation without pauses, without thinking constantly what the word is. And when you hear somebody speaking to you, you're not thinking, oh, what does that word mean? Obviously, if it's something really advanced, you might not understand, but it would be the same situation in your mother tongue. Sometimes you don't understand words, but in general, you have the ability to understand everything that person is saying, and you are able to say everything you want. Even if you don't know a word, you have enough vocabulary and you understand the grammar to explain exactly what you want to say. Language classes are basically where you sit with a teacher, whether in a classroom or online. My school is all based online because we have teachers from all around the world, all native speakers and students from all around the world. Obviously, we can't get them all in classrooms, so everything is online. And all the classes in my school are one-on-one. This is perfect because you get the most attention from the teacher. If you have a group class, you're going to be only as good as the lowest common denominator. The worst student in that group is going to be deciding the pace at which you learn, and they're going to hold you back. So if you are the best student in a group, you're going to feel frustrated. And if you're the worst student in the group, you're going to be stressed out because you know that you're holding everyone else back. The good thing about one-on-one classes is the teacher is going to go exactly at your pace. Now, with these online classes, you're going to get a link from the teacher. It's either going to be something like Zoom or Teams or any other app that you decide to use. Most teachers have one app that they prefer. Either they just prefer Zoom or they always use Teams. The teacher will basically decide that, but all these apps are very easy to use. You just search it on Google and they will give you logins. They'll give you normally a username and a password to get in that meeting. The classes normally will be about 60 minutes because that's the ideal amount of time. 30 minutes is too short to really learn anything, and more than 60 minutes, you're going to get tired. 60 minutes is the exact amount of time you need to be studying, and you're going to join this meeting and you're going to be face to face with your teacher. Now, the teacher's task is to obviously teach you the language and your task is to learn it. The teacher is going to lead these classes. The teacher decides the materials and decides the things that you are going to learn. Obviously, you can have input saying, for example, when I'm learning Arabic, we had a whole section about sports, and I thought, well, I don't need to learn sports, it's pointless. So we just jumped over that and went to the next thing. But the teacher in general will know the things you need to learn, and they will know what point you need to learn it. So it's going to go level by level. There's no point learning something really advanced in your first month, and there's no point focusing on things that you don't need to know. The teacher will know this. Now, normally you will have a textbook, and each teacher knows which textbook is ideal for you. Most languages have basically one textbook series that you can use. For example, for Hungarian, there's a set of textbooks called Magyarok that all the students use, and they go up in levels. Normally, you have a workbook and a textbook that go together for each level, and they go up A1, A2, B1, B2 steadily. So you progress over time and you don't get overloaded with information that you don't need. Now, for other languages, such as Arabic, the school that I cooperate with, they have an online system. So it's basically like a textbook, except you just log into their website and it's already there. Both systems are great. A textbook you can just have in front of you and you can look at it. The online system, you can see it online. But both are very easy to use, and the teacher will decide this, and you will just go through it with them. So as I said, the teacher's task is to explain things to you. They will lead, they will give you a set of words or a set of verbs or a grammar concept, and they will explain it to you, and then they will give you exercises. And because you are doing the exercises with the teacher, they are able to correct you. And if you don't understand anything, they can explain it to you. Next class, you go through it again and they see how well you learnt it. And if you've learnt it well, they're going to give you another section of the book. For example, you could do the verb to be and to have in the first class. By the second class, if you know that, you can do the verb to want. You might learn colours, you might learn numbers. And if you've remembered that, then you go on to family members. Whatever it is, different books have different order a little bit, but in general, these subjects go in the same order. All the languages, basically, you're going to learn colors, you're going to learn basic verbs, you're going to learn basic nouns like house, dog, cat, door, window, all these basic things that you need to know in your daily life, and then progress as you go along. Trust me, the teacher will have had a lot of experience, especially if they're working with me. They'll be a very experienced teacher, so they know what they're doing. Just trust them. Now, obviously, when you start learning a language, you're not going to be able to speak it well. So you may have to rely on English to a certain extent. But it's really important that you don't only speak English. You should try to speak the language that you are learning as much as possible. I understand it's not going to be really easy. You're going to have lots of trouble finding the right word. But just saying simple things will make you progress. Even in the first few classes, I try to speak immediately. Even if I don't know a word, you could just ask. And that's another fantastic thing about a teacher. You can just ask them if you don't know a word. If you're talking to somebody in the street and you don't know a basic word, they're immediately going to get frustrated with you and say, oh, we can just speak English then, or just not want to talk to you. A teacher is amazing because they're going to be really patient with you. And that is fundamental with language learning. They're going to understand that you don't understand everything to form sentences, especially in the first months of study, but they're going to help you through this, and they're not going to judge you. When you're out in public, people are judging you a little bit. I mean, people are in general quite happy if you're trying to speak their language, but they don't have the time to explain everything to you. If you don't understand, they're just like, oh, come on, get on with it. A teacher's not like this. You've got the whole 60 minutes to go through things you don't understand, repeat things. You're going to be talking to them, as I said, that's really important. But you can make mistakes, and they're going to correct you in a way that normal people out in the world are not going to. People out there are just trying to understand what you want to say and get something sold. If you're buying something in a shop, they just want to understand what you want to buy and sell it to you. A teacher is not like that. The main goal of a teacher, or his or her main focus, is to teach you the language. So they're going to be really patient, and they're going to explain concepts to you and tell you the words you don't understand. So, classes. they're about learning vocabulary, they're about learning the grammar, they're going to explain that to you. It's about talking as much as possible, but in a safe space, in an environment where you feel comfortable and relaxed, and also doing exercises. So for most languages, you have the textbook, which explains all the stuff like the vocabulary. It has lists of words you need to know for each section, and it has exercises that you can do, and grammar such as tables with verbs or any kind of grammar concept. I obviously don't know if you speak any language yourself, but for example, if you're learning a Slavic language, you're going to have all the cases, the 7 cases, and it's going to explain what that is and how to use it. And then it comes with an exercise that you test whether you know how to do this. And when you do the exercise with the teacher and you make a mistake, he or she will be able to explain to you why you made the mistake and how to do it correctly. Also, normally, especially if you're using a textbook, is going to come with a workbook. So the workbook is either for you to do with the teacher in the class. That's what I do. I'm a very busy person, so I don't really have time to do homework, but we do that together to repeat what we did in the textbook. If you're somebody who has lots of free time, you can do this after the class if you want to do that, almost like homework that children do in school, except you're probably an adult, so you're free to do it or not, and if you don't have time to do it, you can do it in the class. You then do this exercise if you want to do it in your free time, and the teacher will then go through it with you in the next class and find out how well you understood the concept or how well you remembered all the words you did, and then correct you and help you improve step by step. With learning languages, as I said at the beginning, there is no rush to this. This is not a race. This is a marathon, a long task that you're going to take months or most likely years over learning. Now, as I said, if you only want to learn a language for 6 months, don't even start, because you're going to totally waste your time. If you've heard everything I've said and you're thinking, oh no, that's too much effort, I can't be bothered to do that, you can click off the video now. This really isn't the video for you. If you want to do it short term, absolutely don't start. If you want to learn a language for many years and get perfect, keep watching this video. Now, we've already discussed how long it's going to take you to learn a language, obviously many years. But what we also need to discuss is how many times a week you're going to take the classes. If you only want to take 1 class a week, you're not going to progress very quickly. That's only 52 weeks a year. Also, with breaks and holidays, Christmas, New Year, whatever, you might travel somewhere, you miss some weeks, something goes wrong, you get sick. So it's going to be less than 52 weeks. You can't learn a language in 52 weeks. You can't learn a language in 100 weeks. Well, if you do 1 class a week, like in 100 classes. So you're going to extend the amount of time it's going to take you to learn a language. What I always recommend is a minimum of 2 to 3 classes a week. Now, obviously, I'm the language G. I'm a little bit crazy in a positive way. So I'm taking 4, 5, 6 classes a week. I don't expect the average person to do that. If you want to do that, you're going to learn very quickly. I learned Polish after 3 years, despite speaking other Slavic languages, so it's even easier for me, doing about 5 classes a week. So imagine how much time it's going to take you to learn a language as somebody who only studies 2 or 3 times a week. It's going to take you many years, but that's absolutely fine. Just be patient. Language learning isn't for people who are impatient. If you're an impatient person, you're going to find language learning very frustrating, because it's absolutely about patience and taking things step by step. If you imagine you have to do 1,000 classes to be fluent, think how many days that's going to take. That's going to take you 3 years, even if you do it 4 or 5 times a week. Just get that into your head, how much it's going to take you. Now, obviously, you can speak a language. Basically, you can get by, you can have simple conversations, you can go to the shop after just a few months of study. But we're really focused on getting students to a high level. That's called B2. That's basically where you can say everything you want. If you want to achieve that, it's going to take a lot longer. Now, obviously, it depends on the language you're learning. If you speak English as your native language and you want to learn Spanish, it's going to be much quicker than if you want to learn Chinese. I get that. But even with the easiest languages, it's going to take you a few years to reach that goal of fluency. Now, as I said before, you're going to have to speak in your classes, because after you've done a few weeks or a few months, you should be avoiding English or your native language as much as possible and only speaking in the language you're learning. And if you have any questions, ideally ask that question in your target language and get the response from the teacher in that target language. The more you can speak the language you're learning, the quicker you are going to learn it. Now, I'm going to assume you're not going to use the language you're learning that much outside the classroom. If you are, that's amazing. You are very lucky. When I was learning Polish, I was barely using the language. Although I live not very far from Poland, I would visit the country maybe twice a year. I wasn't connecting with Polish people. I was learning Polish basically to add it to my portfolio of languages because that's what I do for a job when I'm learning Hungarian, as I am now. I don't really speak the language often. I only really speak to the teacher. Sometimes I communicate for business in Hungarian, but not often. And the same situation for Arabic. The only time I speak Arabic now is in my Arabic classes. So you have to make the most of your time with the teacher, because if you're not using it in the outside world, this is the only chance you have. And trust me, speaking as much as possible is the way you progress quicker. It's like a fast track to being fluent in a language. Even in my case for learning Ukrainian, as you probably know, I have a Ukrainian girlfriend, but I speak to her in Russian. The reason why she doesn't really speak to me in Ukrainian much is because my Russian is better than my Ukrainian. We started speaking Russian at the beginning of our relationship, so it's the language we almost got used to speaking, and it's weird now to speak Ukrainian. So I'm learning her native language, but I'm only really speaking the language when I'm with my teacher. So don't underestimate how little you're going to use it in the outside world. Now, obviously, you should try and force it as much as possible. Any opportunity you have to speak this language, take it. And that's what I'm doing now. After about a year and a half of studying Ukrainian, I'm literally forcing my girlfriend to speak to me in Ukrainian. Even if she responds in Russian, I'm going to force it and mold her into finding speaking Ukrainian useful in our relationship. Now, if you're in a relationship with somebody who speaks your target language, or you have friends who speak it, or you have people at your work who speak that language, excellent. This is a fantastic opportunity. Make the most of it. Learn the vocabulary, learn the grammar, do the exercise in your class, speak in that language, but also speak it as much as possible with the people you can, because again, that's now double fast track. You're using the language all the time, and that's called immersion. And when you're using the language in the outside world, you might know people who speak that language, you might live with people who speak that language, or you might even live in the country where they speak that language. That is amazing. That is the way you're going to learn the language really quickly. That is the ideal situation. If I could spend a year living in Hungary, I would be learning the language so much quicker. These language classes are the lifeline for me. Without them, I could never learn Hungarian. As you know, I'm the language expert. I can speak 25 languages, but even I can't teach myself languages. Everyone's a little bit lazy. Everyone's distracted. I'm trying to run my business, trying to film videos. I've always got something to do. I'm not going to sit and teach myself that language because I won't be focused. The best thing about a language teacher is you have this 1 hour where you can't get distracted. You can't just go on your phone. You can't just do something else and watch a YouTube video. You're in this class for an hour, so you're almost captive. And you can't be distracted by other things. And that absolute focus will keep you on track. And if you're consistent with it, 3 times a week, every week, for 1 year, that's about 150 classes a year. After 2 years, 300. After a year, and after 3 years, 450 classes. This is fantastic. This is exactly how you progress and how you go from not speaking a language to suddenly one moment realizing you're fluent. Now, when you're learning a language at first, you're going to feel amazing progress because you're going from not speaking a language at all to suddenly being able to speak a language a little bit. It goes like this. It's like going up a mountain. You suddenly realize, wow, I've made so much progress. But as time goes on, the amount you're learning compared to what you knew before is going to slow down. Even if you learn 10 words in the first class, and then you learn another 10 words in the second class, you've doubled the amount of words you've learned. But after a year, when you learn 10 more words, that's only a tiny percentage more. So don't give up. Don't feel frustrated that you feel your progress is slowing down, because it's only slowing down compared to how you felt at the beginning. You're still learning and you're still building. That's the whole thing I've been saying about patience. Really important when you're taking classes. But of course, language classes aren't the only thing you need to be doing to learn a language. They're really important. They are the most fundamental building block, in my opinion, but you also need to be doing things in your free time. So as I said, if you can, do the workbook in your free time. If you can, review the words you've learned. I have a notebook. Again, every time I film this video, I forget my notebook in the other room. I'm not going to get it, but I have all these words written out. I'm doing it for Arabic. Every day, write down 10 words. Every time we have a class, I get all the new words we've learned, put it in the notebook, and I take it with me, and I read it. This is what you should be doing in your free time. Because the more free time you have for language learning, the quicker you're going to learn. You take it, and you walk, and you look at the words, and you repeat them again and again. Don't be frustrated if it takes you 10 or 20 times to learn it off by heart so that you just know the word. That's what it takes. Our brains don't learn something the first time. It thinks, okay, this is some random knowledge, I can forget it. You have to learn something or repeat something at least 10 times, 20 times until the brain really believes, okay, this is a very important word, this is very important information, this is an important grammar concept. We need to internalize this and remember it long term. So in your free time, you need to be looking at your textbook, you need to be going through it, reading what you've done, doing the exercises in the workbook. If you're not doing it in the class, you need to be going through the grammar. For example, for most languages, you've got verb conjugations, you've got grammar concepts, you've got new words in every language. And if you're doing a language such as Chinese, you're going to have the characters to learn. You need to be writing them out, you need to be repeating them day after day after day in your free time. Otherwise, you're not going to be learning quickly in the classes because you're just relying on the teacher. Even someone like me, who's taking 4 to 5 classes in each language a week, that free time, that extra hour in the evening is really important to keep me on track and progressing as quickly as possible. As well as this, you need to be consuming the language as much as possible. As I said before, if you are surrounded by the language, people in your life are speaking it, you've got friends, family, work colleagues who speak the language, fantastic. But if you don't have that, one of the best things you can do is consume films and TV series in the language you're learning. If you have Netflix or YouTube or any other streaming service, make the most of it. Don't just sit and watch something in your language or in English. Well, if you're learning English, sure. But if you're learning English, why would you be watching this video? Consume everything in the language you're learning, or consume it in English / the language you speak with the subtitles. Both are fantastic ways of absorbing the language. You want to absorb the listening of the language. You want to hear the language and recognize the words you've been learning. You also want to read the language. So this is why subtitles are fantastic. So let's say you are learning German. If you've watched something before in English, let's say, you can then watch it again in German with English subtitles. Or if you're going to watch something new, you could watch it in English and just add the German subtitles. So whilst you're watching a show or a film that you enjoy, you're just subconsciously reading the subtitles in German and you're picking up this vocabulary and learning whilst you're enjoying yourself. This is just a little extra activity that you can do on the side that will really help you. This is what I do almost every day. People laugh at me and say, well, why are you watching Netflix? It's a waste of time. It's not for me. It's part of my job. I'm sat learning a language on Netflix. And even better, if you're watching something that you've already watched before. Let's say you have a favorite film. Could be the Harry Potter films. And you know everything that happens in these films. You know the text off by heart. You could repeat everything they're going to say. Well, then go and watch it in your language. Let's say you're learning French. Well, then watch all the Harry Potter films in French. Because it's going to be so much easier to understand the French knowing what they're going to say. And once you can speak a language, the absolute best thing you can do is go to the country where they speak that language. As I said, I'm learning Hungarian. I wish I could spend a year in Hungary now, because then I would learn the language so much quicker. If you're already living in the country where they speak the language that you're studying, fantastic. But if not, try to get there as much as possible. I understand. If you live in Canada, for example, and you're learning Japanese, it's going to be hard to go to Japan often. It's on the other side of the world. But if you have that opportunity, make the most of it. And even if you're living far away from that country, when you go on vacation, choose to go to the country where they speak that language. Take a few weeks off, take a month off, and go there and absorb the language in its natural environment. Talk to people. Don't be scared of talking to people. This is what I find from a lot of my students. They say, oh, I'm scared of making mistakes. I'm scared of being judged by people. First of all, who cares? I make videos on the internet and I get judged all the time. I make language interviews and I post them to my YouTube where I speak all these different languages, and obviously I make mistakes in them and people write comments saying, oh, you suck. Why do I care? I'm doing this for the wider world, to an international audience, and I'm not bothered. So why are you scared just to speak to one person? They're probably not even thinking about you as a foreigner. As I said, the example of the shop before, they're just trying to sell you something. If you're in a restaurant and you want to order something, they're just trying to understand what you want to order. They're not judging you. They're not thinking you're an idiot. They're just thinking, well, I want to know what he wants to eat, what he wants to drink. They take that order and you've practiced the language a bit, and maybe they'll be really impressed by you. They'll say, that's an amazing job, and you'll get that huge motivation boost. So I hope after this video, you've realized that there's so much more effort that goes into learning a language than just sitting on a stupid app like Duolingo, pressing a bunch of buttons that's not going to teach you a language. Duolingo isn't built to teach you a language. It's only designed to keep you on the app. That's all they want. And the longer they can keep you on the app, the more money they make. So this is their only focus. So they don't want you to learn it quickly. They just want you to play and press buttons. You're not going to be speaking. You're not going to be writing. You're not going to be listening to people using the language. And you're not going to be using it in a natural way. It's just a game at the end of the day. Language classes are so much different. You're almost simulating what it's like in the outside world. Now, some people say, oh, you can use AI, but it's totally not the same. A real person who sees your progress and is actually impressed by you and says, well done, amazing job, that is a huge motivation, and it's much more realistic. It's like the outside world. You can recreate a situation with your teacher. She could be a waitress and you could be a customer, and you just talk as if you're out in the real world without the fear of being judged. Now, if you've listened to this video and you're thinking, yes, I want to learn a language, I like the way language classes sound, you're motivated to learn it, you've got a reason to learn it, you know which language you want to learn, and you're ready to take those language classes and invest that time and effort week after week, month after month, year after year to reach that goal, and you don't want to quit after a few months, then go ahead, write me a message. You can write it anyway. You can send me a message on Instagram, you can send it on TikTok. If you go to my website, Peter Coles Languages, you can get my Telegram and send me a message. Just write which language you want to learn. Tell me why you want to learn it, because that's very important. And tell me which country you're in, because based on the time zone, we need to find a teacher who's suitable for your time zone. For example, if you live in America and you can only study after work in the evening, it's going to be a challenge to find a teacher who can match your time zone. Because of course, if you want to learn Polish, all the teachers are basically in Poland or in Europe at least, and they will finish work at 5 p.m, which will be the morning for you. But don't worry, just write to me and I will find solutions for you. If you're really motivated to learn a language and you're going to stick it out, I will put the effort into finding a teacher for you. That is my job. So I hope this video was useful for you. I hope you learned something. I hope you've been inspired to take language classes. And if that's the case, I really look forward to you sending me a message. See you in the next video.